If you're looking to take your business towards net zero is not a phrase I use very often. I tend to talk about ending fossil fuels much more because I think one of the risks we have when we all talk about net zero is that it kind of allows you to offset stuff, and actually the science is pretty clear that we can't offset stuff. We have to stop fossil fuels completely. There's very good guidance on this in splitting your emissions into scopes: scope 1, scope 2 and scope 3. Scope 1 emissions are any fossil fuel that your business burns itself, and you're actually buying the fuel and burning it. I'm happy to say that we don't have any scope 1 emissions. We don't own any fossil fuel vehicles and that kind of thing. And the scope 1 emissions are a great place to start because they're normally the easiest to get rid of. So that means looking at if you've got an oil boiler, or if you've got fossil fuel vehicles, definitely take a look at those and see if there's credible alternatives there, and get your scope 1 emissions under control. Scope 2 is emissions that are caused on behalf of your business by somebody else. So for example, if you buy electricity from the grid, the emissions that were created in generating that electricity are in your scope 2 emissions. So solar is a good way to say, because typically a lot of a business's energy is its electricity and it's bought in from the grid, and solar is a way to knock down that scope 2 emission quite quickly. So that can be a big chunk of it. And then scope 3 emissions are understanding the implications of your product or service for future. So that means any emissions that your customers create as they use your product or service, or any that are saved as well by your product or service. So I like to think that our scope 3 emissions are pretty good because every project we do takes away some fossil fuel consumption. We don't do any jobs in any other sector. So I think our scope 3 is okay. And for us as a business, scope 2 is where we need to focus. Another thing which I think is a really positive thing to look at is electric company car schemes. Because part of the scope 2 emissions that can be quite large for some businesses are all your staff driving to the office. So solar on the office, staff car charging, and providing, the tax incentives are really good for doing it now. Providing staff with electric company cars is a great way for a business to knock down some of these kind of hidden scope 2 emissions that the staff are causing in order to be able to do the work. So I think that's a good initiative to be able to do.